55-42. West Virginia falls to Kansas in overtime. Here on the Mountaineers Now post-game show, I'm Skylar Callahan, and joined with me is Eugene Napoleon, former West Virginia running back. And this is our first post-game show of the season. And obviously, probably not what we expected. In our game day preview show, we both predicted West Virginia to win this game. And, you know, the start to this game, I think was it what everyone expected. They got out to a 21-7 start. Offense was humming. Defense looked a little iffy. But as the game got a little older, you could just feel this game starting to slip out of West Virginia's hands. And you know what, Gene? I've said since the beginning of Jordan Leslie as the defensive coordinator that I felt as long as he was calling plays and as long as he was in charge of that defense, that they wouldn't have to really worry about that side of the ball, and that it would have to be the offense that would have to be the concern. Well, that wasn't the case tonight and hasn't been the case for the first two games. But there's a bigger story here, Gene. It's not Jordan Leslie. It's not about how bad that defense looked, even though they were very bad, and we will talk about it. But this is about Neil Brown. And I'm sorry, Gene, but this is year 4.
Yeah.
And there's no more trust in any climb. I'm going to go ahead and pause because I want you to get in some words here.
Listen, let me say this. And again, this is no disrespect to Kansas, all right? This is big boy football. You understand? We're not at Troy, and there's no disrespect to Troy either. When you give up 55 points to Kansas at home, and you're coming off an emotional loss to our rivals at Pitt last week, that can't happen. I don't care who you're playing against. You don't lose at home, and you don't give up 55 points. Now, the thing that really has me aired out right now is the fact that we looked atrocious from the third quarter through the fourth quarter because of coaching. I'm going to say it, because of coaching. You don't lose. Let me tell you something, Scarlett, you know as well as I do. I don't care if you're playing Pop Warner. I don't care if you're playing a high school ball. I don't care if you're playing Division III ball. When you give up 55 points in your home against a team like now, Kansas' saving grace is this. They are well coached. We said that. They are going to come and they're going to play for 4 quarters. Well coached in all 3 phases of the game. We looked as though we were like deer in headlights in certain. That doesn't make any sense to me when you're playing at this level. There's no way we should be 0-2 to start this season, and for our worst, you freaking lose to Kansas at home. Doesn't happen.
Here's where my problem is, Gene. It's not just that you lose to Kansas, okay? Because that's bad as it is. But if this were to happen in 2019, that's a whole different story. You're starting over. That'd be year 1. This is year 4. You cannot lose to Kansas. You can't lose to the Texas Techs of the world in year 4 and expect everybody to still be bought into your program. And I'm not saying that I can't speak for the players. I can't. I truly can't. I can't speak for where their mindset is or anything like that, but I have a hard time believing that you can rebound from this and get this team back on track. I know they got Towson next week, but that's what everyone was saying last week about Kansas. You got Kansas next week.
Exactly.
I mean,
and this is no disrespect to Towson. See, here's my problem. The way Coach Neal, and thank God for him, the way we played that game, my years at WVU was real simple. We didn't look at who we were playing. You win the game that you're playing in that particular week. We didn't look past anybody, Rutgers, anybody else. It didn't matter who we were playing. To look past, let's say what happened at Pitt, right? Like we said, we're looking at Kansas now. Kansas rolls in, they hang 55 on you in your place. Now here comes Townsend. You're supposed to be Townsend. You were supposed to be Kansas. To me, that's why I'm upset, because I see where this is going. Okay, we're 0-2. 0-2, right? You beat Count. You beat. I don't even think winning and beating Townsend is going to mean anything to our fan base, and it probably shouldn't because you're supposed to beat Townsend. What are we gonna do? Throw a parade because we beat Townsend? No. Then you get into our schedule, which is really scary because now you dive right into the schedule, and you know how important it is to get a victory. Anytime you beat someone in conference, to get a conference win, you know what that does for Kansas to leave Morgantown with a 55-42 win?
Yeah.
They should be sky high right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're playing well. They're well coached. And I'm trying to find the right words here because I don't want to be, I guess, too harsh. I don't know. I just don't know what else to say. At this point in time, you're running out of excuses. Like you have no excuse for this type of performance. The biggest issue that I saw in this game is discipline, poor technique. The body language was awful defensively, at least. Offensively, I mean, it was what it was. I think they did their job. But to me, you can't have these things still happening in year 4. And I get people
Right.
say, you know what, it's week 2, tackling still going to be a problem. The offensive line's still trying to gel together, stuff like that. This is an offensive line that he has touted all off season about being how experienced, how seasoned they are, how much better they are. The defense, he said, well, the secondary is going to surprise a lot of people. Yeah,
Right.
he's got that right, maybe in the wrong way, but to me, you can't have missed tackles. You can't have missed assignments. You can't have guys taking terrible angles to the quarterback. Gene, I don't know how many times tonight did they have Jalen Daniels dead to rights in the backfield, and they just overplayed it. They overshot the angle, and all of a sudden it opens things up. He's running for first downs. He's throwing for 20 yards downfield.
Right.
Bad technique. This is year 4. You cannot have this stuff, man. And I'm just telling you, you lose to Kansas, which is supposed to be a gimme win on your schedule. You only have one of those left, and that's next week. There's not many wins left on this schedule that are guaranteed.
No. And I mean, the sad part, I look at, offensively, you figure Daniels put up, what is it? He was 28 for 38 for 355, 3 touchdowns.
Great
Wheaton,
game.
great game. Wheaton, 11 receptions for 152 yards, 2 touchdowns.
And let's say, I'll say this. I'll pause you right there. How about Bryce Wheaton bouncing back after having the way the game ended for him last week? Tremendous job for him.
That's the first thing I thought about. That's why it was so big for him to play the way he played. 11 receptions, man, $152 and 2 tugs. I'm good with all of that. I mean, for me, that's a heck of a way to bounce back. Putting up 355 in the air, 3 touchdowns, that's a great game. Those are stats of usually you're victorious.
Yeah.
Usually. So I don't know where we go from here as a program. Listen, as a former Mountaineer, and I'm a proud Mountaineer at that. That's why I'm so passionate about how I feel right now. We're not supposed to be 0-2 in the early part of this season because we haven't even gotten into our schedule yet, in its conference play yet. I'm looking at everybody else. I watched some games today. Let me tell you something, man. Texas looked damn good. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm watching some teams that I know that we have to play here in the next few weeks, and I'm saying to myself, okay, well, we're going to have to. My attitude earlier during the day was we show up at 6 o'clock in Morgantown, we handle our business, and let's strap it up and get ready to really get rolling, not to look at the screen, watch this game, and see Kansas hang 55 points. Nah, man, I'm sorry. Look, year 4, right? I'm going to say it again, big boy football. This is big boy football, which means as a coach, as a staff, we got to do better. Because if you don't, what's the alternative if you don't do better? You answer that for me. What do you think the alternative is? I'll tell you. You know what it is? Get the U-Haul trucks ready, gas them jokers up, and we're going to Morgantown.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of the media doesn't want to do, and I understand.
I get it.
And we will do everything the right way. We're going to be authentic. We're going to be real.
Of
But at the
course.
same time, we're not going to, we won't put people in a position and say, Neil's the worst coach ever. He needs to go. But we're going to tell you the facts, and we're going to tell you what our feelings are. And I don't know what my feelings would be as a fan. I can tell you what I know feelings fan or the fans or the feelings of the fans are, and that's frustration. They're upset. I get that. I just posted a tweet that said, "Give me your thoughts, WVU fans." I do it every game. Usually takes a few minutes to get some tweets rolling. Dude, there were 75 replies.
Like that, right?
3 minutes.
Rapid fire.
If that doesn't tell you where the feeling is right now, I don't know what does. And I'll put it this way. Neil Brown has 10 games left in this season. Okay.
Yep.
There's a lot of football left to be played. And at the end of the year, who knows? Who knows where this team's going to be? Who knows where Kansas is going to be? Because as you and I both said on Thursday and had been saying all week, Kansas is an improved team. Yes. They've shown it. Towards the end of last year, they beat Texas in overtime. They had a close one-score game against West Virginia. They had a close one-score game against TCU. They blow out an FCS opponent last week, which is really the first time they've done that in years. Absolutely. And then they go to West Virginia and win on the road again. So who knows where this Kansas program's at? We may be at the end of the year, and Kansas might be bowl eligible. I mean, that might be a far-fetched statement, but
it's not.
It goes on to win 6-7 games. Maybe you look at this game differently. That's why I say I get the frustration. I understand the disappointment and the just the all frustration. But let's simmer down just a small bit, because there's 10 games left and there's a lot of football left to be played. But I think what this game is a game that you can go back on and say, is this where Neil Brown lost the team? Because 4 or 5 weeks from now, that record may reflect that answer. So
that's Scotty, you're right. Those are all good points of reference. I agree with you. But I'm going to say this, the sample size of a season in 2 weeks don't make or break a season. Let me say that, right? Because you're right. You got 10 games left. What I am saying is the game last week should have won. This game this week, because there was so many MAs, missed assignments in all phases of the game, right? It's hard to say a ball bounced this way, a ball bounced that way. It's hard to say. What I am saying, the reflection of your team is based on how you are coached in critical points of the game. And when mistakes are made, you don't always hang the mistakes on the players. That's what I am saying. So to the fans, I get it. Again, I bleed blue and gold, man. Love my Mountaineers. Love my university. Love the great state of West Virginia. But like you just said, you can't sugarcoat what you see.
Right.
You got to call it like it is. I like Neil Brown. I think Neil Brown is a hell of he's a great guy. But guess what? Being a great guy, when it comes to wins and losses in this business, you don't stick around for being a great guy. You stick around for winning football games.
Yeah. I mean, and I hate to really bring this up, but because this could go off into a whole nother, angle, but Bill Stewart was a great dude. Great dude. And I think a lot of people to this day probably wish that, again, I can't speak for the fans, but probably wish that they would have looked at Bill Stewart in a different way, because he was a good football coach. He won games. I get it was the Big East, but he still won 9 games a year and was a great guy. But for the administration, they wanted something more. They wanted to go after something higher than that. And him being a good guy, being a West Virginian, still wasn't enough. So, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of football left to be played. And I want to go to the actual part of the game here for a second, Gene, because I want to get your thoughts on this.
Sure.
West Virginia is down 2 scores, about 4 minutes to go, I believe. Okay. Mm-hmm. West Virginia runs the ball 4 straight times.
Yeah.
What's going on there? for number one, you're the way your defense is playing, you can't be balanced at that point. You got to start slinging the ball around and try to get that ball in the end zone so you can score. Hopefully your defense will get a stop, and then you can score and then hopefully get another stop. But at that time, you cannot be running the football. I know you want to keep things balanced and you want to keep things wide open, but at that point in time, you just can't run the ball. The second thing, and luckily for West Virginia at the time, it didn't hurt them. But I don't know what it was, second goal, third goal, whatever, on the touchdown that tied the game up.
Right.
Brown called timeout. Why? To me, you're giving Kansas 35 seconds.
Exactly.
Why not let that thing run down? You're at the 1 yard line. If you don't get the next play in and you don't punch it in, you go for it again on third down with the clock still running down. And if you don't get it then you call timeout, get it in. I don't understand why the timeout was called there, because you're giving Kansas time. And we've seen all night long that Kansas offense is making things look easy. So does those two situations concern you about how the game was handled and how games have been handled?
Absolutely. Well, then it's situational football, and that's the thing that's scary. And that's what I mean about making crucial calls in crucial times of the game. And I keep referring back to this is big boy football. At the end of the day, you're 100% right. Why am you can't worry about being balanced when you have to move the football and you don't move the football, and it's based on the calls that you're making. These aren't the players making the calls. So that's why I keep saying it comes back to coaching. And it's tough because I would love to hear, because I'm sure it's going to be brought up in the post-game press conference with Neil. I would love to hear his commentary on that. You're 100% right. What's the point of calling timeout when you're giving Kansas an opportunity to get their stuff together when they don't need any more time to get themselves together? I was telling my wife as we were watching the game, because it comes down to a flow of the game. And you can just feel it. The same way it went last week, the flow of the game, he wasn't in the flow of the game. You can feel it. There's just certain parts of a football game. We've been doing this long enough. When I look at a game, I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? This game was a game that, like you said, situational football tells me that, yeah, I am worried moving forward, because if you can't make those crucial adjustments and calls now, what are you going to do when you get into the teeth of your schedule in conference play when you're playing, not to be disrespectful again, I give Kansas a lot of credit. They're well coached. But when you're playing top to bottom, better football teams.
Yeah.
Better football. What are you going to do then? That's really, really what I'm concerned with.
And for me, and again, I think a lot of the backyard brawl situational decisions, again, we went back and forth on that. I think some of it you can understand, but for me, it's 0-2 on situational football, because last week they had an opportunity to put that game away or potentially set up a game-winning field goal and not give Pitt the ball. And we know how that worked, how that turned out. So if you go back to that week 1 game, this is what I'm telling you, every single game is important for Neil Brown, because if he wins that backyard brawl,
right,
it follows it up with a loss to Kansas. Yes, the loss to Kansas stings still, but you have your hat to hang on that backyard brawl win. There's nothing to hang. He's going to turn around and what is he going to hang his hat on? I mean, you're still talking about a Virginia Tech win from a year ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. Like I said, I'm disappointed, but it is what it is, Scott. You know what? There's so many things going on in the world today. Being disappointed about a 55-42 loss to Kansas, look back on it, probably will pale in comparison. Yeah. But we're talking about right now, the raw emotions right now. But there's so much other things going on in the world that we really need to be concerned with. But boy, it would have been nice to see that score flipped upside down, and West Virginia had 55 and Kansas had 42. And you know what? I'd probably still be complaining because you let them score 42. So you got, life is about perspective, right? So I got to look at it through that lens. But still, as a passionate former player, yeah, it stings. It stings. I don't think anybody's happy with WVU being 0-2.
Yeah. I mean, nobody is. Neil Brown's not, and he's going to tell you the truth. And that's the one thing I know people are going to slam on Neil Brown over the next week. But the one thing I love about Neil Brown is that he admits when things are bad and he is not afraid to face a problem head on. He's going to say it to the press conference or to those in the media room. He'll go on Twitter and apologize to the fan base. And again, Gene, that's what I think a lot of West Virginia fans like about Neil Brown. That's why they want him to succeed, is
Absolutely.
because he is a straightforward guy. He's not going to tell it any other way, and he gets it. He understands it. He understands what this football team means to this state and its fan base. My question is, can he do enough to keep his job heading into 2023? Because we have said it a million times on all of our shows on DVN TV. He's not on the hot seat coming into the season, but he can coach his way onto it. And right now, it's seeming like he's getting closer to coaching onto it if he's not already there. I don't know. Gene, I know we got to get out of here. We've got a full week of stuff still coming. I know it's a disappointing loss, but be sure to come back next week. We've got great stuff. Eugene's got Relatively Sports, a new episode coming up here on Tuesday. I'll be back on Wednesday and Friday with Between the Ears. Gene's got Napoleon's Corner as well. Gene, how about we do this? Next Wednesday, if you're available, will you come on our right here on on Between the Ears? We're going to talk more about Neil Brown because I think we need to focus on some more things other than just this Kansas game. You down?
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. Absolutely.
Good deal. So there we go. We'll be back on the Between the Ears show on Wednesday at 6 p.m. talking Neil Brown, state of the WVU football program. We're going to get real into it. So until then, I'm Skylar Callahan. He's Eugene Napoleon. You've been watching the Mountaineers Now postgame show presented by SI Mountaineers Now on Fan Nation. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at SI_WVU. And you can follow Eugene at Napoleon_Eugene and myself at Callahan_. Until next week, take care.